There's a poem by Robert Frost that I want to start out reading before I talk about today's thoughts. It's called Mending Wall. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that sends the frozen ground swell under it, and spills the upper boulders in the sun, and makes gaps even two can pass abreast. The work of hunters is another thing. I have come after them and made repair. Where they have left not one stone on a stone, but they would have the rabbit out of hiding, to please the yelping dogs. The gaps, I mean, no one has seen them made, or heard them made, but at spring mending time we find them there. I let my neighbor know, beyond the hill, and on a day we meet to walk the line, and set the wall between us once again. We keep the wall between us as we go, to each the boulders that have fallen to each. And some are lows, and some so nearly balls. We have to use a spell to make them balance. Stay where you are until our backs are turned. We wear our fingers rough with handling them. Oh, just another kind of outdoor game? One on a side. It comes to little more. There, where it is, we do not need the wall. He is all pine, and I am all apple orchard. My apple trees will never get across, and eat the cones under his pines. I tell him. He only says, good fences make good neighbors. Spring is the mischief in me, and I wonder if I could put a notion in his head. Why do they make good neighbors? Isn't it where there are cows? But here there are no cows. Before I built a wall, I'd ask to know what I was walling in or out, and to whom I was like to give offense. Something there is that doesn't love a wall, that wants it down. I could say elves to him, but it's not elves exactly, and I'd rather he said it for himself. I see him there, bringing a stone, grasped firmly by the top, in each hand, like an old stone savaged arm. He moves in darkness, as it seems to me, not of woods, only the shade of trees, and will not go behind his father's saying, and he likes having thought of it so well, he says again, good fences make good neighbors. So here you can see the privacy fence that is up in my backyard. Now my yard always didn't have the privacy fence all the way around it. It had this part between the neighbors that I'm facing and my house, and it used to be their fence. They have the privacy fence because there was a pool, and code requires them to have the privacy fence. The other two sides of mine were chain link. A year ago, I had everything ripped out and the privacy fence put up around the entire property. It did a couple of things. First, it keeps that crazy dog right there from barking. Second, honestly, the neighbors behind me don't take good care of their property. Third, the neighbors on that side of me are my in-laws, and it keeps my mother-in-law from snooping in my backyard and peeking out. But the onus for replacing it was this side was very damaged. It had been here for many years. It had been here for 18, 19 years. And the hurricane 2 years ago really tore it apart. Pieces of it fell. It was in sections. It was held up, patched together. So finally I decided that we would replace it. I don't think the people living on this side of me had the money to replace it. You see, there was an elderly woman who lived here with her son. She died a couple years ago, and the son just died a few days ago. Now, we've been neighbors for all these years, and we've probably had a couple of handfuls of conversations with them. You see, they're cat lovers, and my wife and I are dog lovers. So like the poem, it's the difference between cats and dogs. The elderly lady who lived here complained about the dogs from time to time. And well, I complained about the cats. The cats used to like to come over to my property. However, as much as I didn't like the people, I have to say I have a lot of respect for them. They were gentle people. They were quiet people. They were our neighbors. As I said, the son just died. He was only 60 years old. And it's kind of sad because he lived here with his mother. And she was a widow for about the last 15 years since her husband died. And generally, other than a few times calling and complaining about a previous dog my wife and I had barking, she never caused us trouble. And he never caused us trouble. They just lived their quiet life. They never really entertained people. They had a few friends in the neighborhood from what we saw. But they were just quiet people who kept to themselves. And we have our fence. And our fence made us good neighbors. Our fence kept our dog out of their backyard. Our fence kept us out of their backyard. Heck, if I didn't have the fence, I'd be tempted to go jump in the pool every day during the summer. And the fence kept them from peeking over and seeing what was going on in our backyard. The fence defined the line of the property. Okay, it's not exactly on the property line. That's a discussion for another day. But the fence, like the poem says, is something that's a tradition. It's a wall between us. And sometimes these fences and these walls are a necessary part of life. They're a part of life that helps us to keep a balance of privacy. Even though we're social creatures as humans, we need time to ourselves. And this fence allows me the time to come in my backyard, to sit, and to not have people staring at me. It allows me, if I want to keep my backyard in poor condition, to keep it in poor condition. My backyard is not the nicest in the world. I would also say it's not the worst. It's kind of a middle of the road. It would be nicer if I had a sprinkler system. Again, that's a topic for another day. We're talking about the fences and the walls. And there's a big debate in our country about building walls. Walls divide us. Walls dividing our country. But you know what? There are walls everywhere. There are locks on doors everywhere. Why do you lock your door? You lock your door for that privacy. We all lock our doors for that privacy. We all have rooms for our own private moments. We all have fences for our private moments. Good fences make good neighbors. My neighbor was a good neighbor until they got sick and couldn't keep their house in as good of repair as they once did. At one time, it was the best repaired house in the neighborhood. Now it's sadly looking tired and worn. But alas, maybe someone will come along and help keep the fence up and help ensure that the pine cone trees are strong again. Good fences make good neighbors.